Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of In the Huddle. This week, filling in for Xavier, we have English teacher Scott Doherty.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
How did your team do this week?
Week 13 was final week of our regular season, and I had a great week. I had Marshawn Lynch, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns. I had Chris Johnson, over 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eli Manning had a nice week for me. Jordy Nelson had a nice big receptions at the end of the Packers-Giants game to give me some key points, and I'm now into the playoffs this week.
How about you, John?
I won by a 1-point lead, and I made it to the playoffs myself. So,
yeah, in that league, I made the playoffs in both my leagues this week. I'd already had the playoff spot clinched in my one league, but I clinched the #1 seed in that league, and I actually lost and still stayed in the playoffs in my other league. So, definitely a good week for getting into the playoffs. Alrighty, John, who's your stud of the week?
my stud of the week is Percy Harvin from Minnesota. The wide receiver pulled 156 yards receiving and 19 yards rushing, with 2 touchdowns. Although they lost to Denver, Percy showed he had what it takes to play in the rough. With this stud of the week, look to be moving into the next bracket of the playoffs.
Now, here's one note on Percy Harvin. Tore a tendon in his finger on Wednesday at practice. They don't know what his status is for this week. Percy Harvin, if he's in your lineup, you're playing him. He's gotten to that level now. But we don't know what's going to happen with this tendon. He's been out trying to catch balls with it now, and they're going to see what his comfort level is on Sunday. So just be heads up in your lineups. Make sure that he's actually going to be playing.
What a bummer.
Yeah.
I have to make that same note. I had him on my starters, and I was ready to go. Now I'm kind of afraid for this weekend. But if not, I'll start Marcus Coulson in this spot. So that's not.
Yeah, it's not a bad alternative.
Backup, but yeah, Percy Harvin, definitely a good starter this week. Alrighty, my dud of the week this week is Dallas Cowboys running back DeMarco Murray. After taking over for Felix Jones, for the then injured Felix Jones, Murray hasn't disappointed until this week. While you can expect players, especially rookies, to be great every week, it seems as if Murray was impeccable. I don't buy into this though. He will bounce back this week for your first week of playoff action. I can see him having most of the carries. Jones is no threat to his production.
Yeah, I got by that. DeMarco Murray has been a fantasy stud over the last 5-6 weeks. He's got a New York Giants defense this week. It's Sunday Night Football, and I wouldn't hesitate to throw DeMarco Murray into my lineup this week.
Yeah, Murray's one you can't take out of the lineup after 1 week of bad production.
Definitely. I agree totally with you guys.
And you can't worry about Jones taking any of his carries because they have said Murray's their starter, Murray's the guy they're going for. Like you said, they're playing on Sunday night. CBS wouldn't let the Broncos New England game to go to Sunday night, so that's their backup game. But, you know, you live and you learn. Alrighty, who's your definite starter this week?
My definite starter is going to be Tony Gonzalez from the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are facing the Cardinals, and I think that the strong tight end will be able to power through the Cardinals' defense. He is ranked as the 5th best tight end, along with Rob Gronkowski 1st, Jimmy Graham 2nd, Antonio Gates 3rd, and Jason Witten 4th. Look to see Tony moving up this week into the top 4 after this week's performance.
John, you must know that I dropped him the 2nd week of the season and have regretted it ever since. You're just trying to get to me. That was the biggest mistake I've heard all year. And of course my brother's the person who picked him up, so I haven't heard the end of dropping him.
Yeah, Tony Gonzalez, a veteran player. We know the picks of the week this week are tight ends, you know.
Yeah.
And Gonzalez, a Hall of Fame caliber guy. They're making a playoff push. He's guaranteed production. I think at this point you're safe to roll the dice with Gonzalez at this point in his career. You know what you're going to get. He's not going to go for 150 yards anymore. But this guy, 70, 80 yards a touchdown, can certainly see it.
Yeah, and in my defense, I also had Dallas Clark, and news hadn't broke of Peyton's 2nd surgery yet, so I thought there would still be a chance, and that turned out to be a disaster.
Yeah, the Colts have been completely unproductive on offense without Peyton Manning at the helm.
Definitely, we've commented on that many times.
Although last week I was I was astonished when I looked at the score and it was 31-3 New England. That wasn't the surprising part. The surprising part was whenever the final score was 31-24.
And you're going to see in my pick later, Dan Orlovsky, the guy has 4 or 5 career starts in the NFL, threw for over 360 yards against the Patriots.
That's a hard one to read. Alrighty, time for injury replacement pick of the week. My injury replacement pick of the week is Marion Barber. With Matt Forte out, you can expect Barber to have a lot of opportunity for fantasy production. He may be rusty since he hasn't seen much action since being in Dallas last year, but Forte accounted for 43% of the Bears' offense. With Caleb Haney at QB, look for an over-reliance on the rushing game once again this week.
It's last word on Forte. He will not play until he's 100% healthy. And he's in a contract year. The guy doesn't want to get hurt. If you're a Matt Forte owner, I would not count on him for 1, 2, 3 weeks. I mean, I think Marion Barber is going to be a consistent play over the next couple of weeks as well. The guy used to be the touchdown vulture in Chicago. Forte would get him to the goal line and Barber would hammer it in. Now you're going to be looking for that production all the way down the field, and he'll still get his touchdowns.
Yeah, there's really no other person to get the carries in Chicago right now, and it's just hard to read what will go on there, but the one thing that you can guess is they're going to be rushing it a lot. It's that old school Bears smash mouth football. So
now, I definitely agree with you. Marion Barber is a great replacement for Matt Forte, but I don't think that Barber is going to put as many points up as Forte does. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
You can't expect that.
But he is the best replacement for him.
Where he's going to hurt you,
yeah.
Matt Forte was such a gifted receiver out of the backfield. Marion Barber is not going to get you the catches and yards receiving that Forte got you out of the backfield. You could also have the argument that teams may stack the box and stop Barber because they're not afraid Caleb Haney's going to beat him. But time will tell. We'll see.
Yeah, Haney might make him pay in that instance. Alrighty, time for pick of the week. This week we picked tight ends. And my tight end pick of the week is Philadelphia Eagles tight end Brent Celek. Celek has been rather disappointing this year, a headache nonetheless. But with Vic back, I see a resurgence of this offense. In the 3 games prior to Vic's injury, Vic and Celek connected for 18 catches and for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. Andy Reid is on the hot seat and will need to call for some gutsier calls to try and salvage this season.
I'm on board with Celek now that Michael Vick's back. Like you said, 18 grabs over 3 games, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, we're talking 6 grabs a game and, 60, 70 yards a game. That's production, consistent production out of the tight end spot. And that's what you're looking for out of your tight end, consistency.
All right, John, here's your...
How about we take the doc for sleeper pick?
My sleeper pick of the week. I mentioned this earlier. Dan Orlovsky threw for 363 yards last week against the New England Patriots, the number 32 ranked defensive secondary in the NFL. My sleeper pick of the week is Jabbar Gaffney. Plays for the Redskins. Redskins up against the Patriots this weekend. Jabbar Gaffney used to play for the New England Patriots. He could have a little bit of revenge on his mind. Gaffney's been thrown to 46 times this year for nearly 700 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns. I'm seeing big numbers for Jabbar Gaffney this week. He's probably owned in 50 to 60% of leagues. And this guy could be picked up off the waiver wire right now in tons of leagues. And I see huge production this week.
Yeah.
Don't forget about that foot injury, though. He's got that foot injury that's holding him back a little bit, and he's a little shaky coming out of that injury. So we gotta watch him with that foot. So he's unpredictable right now.
He's definitely been a roller coaster this year, up and down. I'm looking for him to be on the upswing this week.
Yeah, hopefully. And with a defense like that, it's hard not to believe that he'll bounce back. And New England doesn't need a good defense. That's the thing. There's the argument defense wins championships, all those cliche terms, but if you have a good offense, you can respond with a lot of points. So,
alrighty, how about your don't get down on?
Yeah. My don't get down on pick of the week here is going to be Deshaun Jackson of the Philadelphia Eagles. Deshaun Jackson, you've heard about the contract dispute all summer long. You've heard about him being unhappy with his role in the Philadelphia organization. He's felt disrespected, and he's had a ton of trouble. He's had a ton of trouble this year having consistent production. Andy Reid backed him up last week, even though he benched him in the second half. He hasn't had huge production, no touchdowns in 6 weeks, no 100-yard games in 7 weeks. I think he proves everybody wrong this week. He needs to get this production up so he can get that guaranteed money.
Exactly.
And he's been playing pretty poor for the past 5 weeks. He had that ever since that fumble against Chicago. He's just been down in the slumps for these past few weeks.
It's just been ridiculous. He's on my team and watching drop after drop after drop. And it's not hard to miss these because they're on prime time it seems like every single Sunday or Monday they're on Sunday or Monday Night Football. I don't know why they have such a love affair with the Eagles because they're 4-8. So it's hard to see why. But
they're like the team that's fun to watch them lose now.
Yeah.
when you call out that you're going to be the dream team at the start of the year and then you're not getting it done, they've kind of brought this on themselves. Hey, do you want to see the Heat win? No, man, we're rooting against the Miami Heat now. The Eagles have kind of fallen into that villain role.
Yeah. All right, well, on to me for my tight end pick of the week. Jermichael Finley is the tight end pick of the week. Last week, Finley had 87 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. He had his fair share of troubled times trying to get up to the top 10 tight ends list. Currently, he is the 6th best ranked tight end, but I think that Finley has the right quarterback and the offense to put him into the top 5 places. Now that we are in the playoffs, look for him to be putting points up this week against the Oakland Raiders defense.
Yeah, there are so many questions in Oakland, and as a Broncos fan, following Oakland's pretty much like following Denver because you want them to lose so much. And they're tied right now in the division, both 7-5 teams. It's something that I've been watching for, and Oakland's defense seemed to disappoint last week against Miami. Although Miami's hot this year, or at this point in the year, it's hard to buy into whether that defense is good or not with losing Asamuga over the year and just stuff like that. Alrighty, Doc, who's your tight end pick?
I'm going to go Detroit Lions, Brandon Pettigrew. This guy has 56 grabs, 475 yards, 3 touchdowns on the year. He's been very unproductive over the course of the last month. He did have 11 catches and over 100 yards earlier against the Vikings. He's up against the Vikings again. Teams are bracketing Calvin Johnson, and I think this is going to open things up for Pettigrew.
Yeah, the Lions have been one of those teams that they are kind of the opposite of the Eagles. You kind of want to see them win just because 0-16 a few years ago. It's just that team that it's like rooting against a puppy to lose or something like that. You don't want the underdog to lose, and you
Tell
don't
Ndamukong Suh that.
Yeah. Well, when he stops stomping on people, I guess.
When he quits stomping on puppies, we'll start rooting for the Lions again.
I definitely think that he had his fair share of in the slump, just like Deshaun McCoy. He had his 2 receptions for 13 yards in 1 week, and 4 receptions for 27 yards, and 4 receptions for 37 yards. He doesn't just blow up like some of the other receivers that Detroit has, and I think that is what leads the quarterback to not rely on him as much.
Sure, definitely. Alrighty, John.
All right, this has been In the Huddle. This is our special guest, Scott Doherty, Ben McGavin, and Jonathan Deal. Hut, hut!